Actor Kip Pardue is used to being in the spotlight. He starred in the film Remember the Titans and the Hulu series Runaways. Now he's under a different kind of spotlight. The Screen Actors Guild found Pardue guilty of serious misconduct after he was accused of sexual harassment on set. LA Times senior investigations editor Jack Leonard joins us with more on the accusations and how SAG's disciplinary committee decided to punish him. Hi, Jack. I want to warn the audience that we are not going to be too explicit, but this is sexual in nature and rather sensitive. So if you have children in the room, you might want to turn it down. Tell us what happened to the actress Sarah Scott.
Sure. Ms. Scott says that she was on the set of a pilot that was being made last year, and she was doing a sex scene with Kip Pardue, and that he put her hand on his groin and without any warning. And then later, he went to her trailer and he exposed himself and he touched himself in front of her.
She called the police.
Well, she filed a police report. She says that she was shocked at what happened. She wasn't sure where to turn. She reported it to the producers of the show. She went to the police and she filed a report, but she wasn't interested in pursuing any kind of criminal charges or anything like that, or pursuing a lawsuit. So she ended up going to the union that represents actors and actresses, the Screen Actors Guild.
And what was her intent? Did she think that they would sanction him or suspend him from work? What was she looking for?
She told my colleague Amy Kaufman that what she really wanted was to make sure that this did not happen again, really to try and change what was going on in the industry. The incident occurred months after the Harvey Weinstein allegations broke. And so, of course, there was a lot of public outrage at what women in Hollywood and beyond were going through. And so for something like this to happen afterwards was a big shock, and she wanted to make sure it didn't happen again.
So SAG-AFTRA has a committee, they have a hearing. What happens there? Right,
there's a disciplinary committee that meets, and this takes about a year for the whole process to go through, but they take evidence from both Ms. Scott and Mr. Pardue, and another actress comes forward with similar allegations. She's read a story that my colleague Amy Kaufman wrote about Sarah Scott's accusation, and Andrea Bogart says something very similar happened to her 5 years earlier.
This when she was on the set of Ray Donovan, and
That's
she was
right.
very excited about being on a very popular show. She said it was the very first time she'd been on such a popular show, and she was worried about coming forward before because she thought it hurt her career.
Right. She said that she froze when he came to her trailer in much the same way. And she did tell a friend what had happened, a longtime friend, who confirmed that account to Amy, but she didn't go to the police and she didn't go to the producers at the time. But she did submit an affidavit to the Screen Actors Guild disciplinary committee.
And we need to say that Pardue, for his part, says he's innocent.
Yeah, he says that he does admit that he put Sarah Scott's hand on his groin and has apologized for that, but he says that nothing else happened, and his lawyer said that all the any actions, he hasn't done anything that was non-consensual.
And Pardue's lawyer, we have to say, tried to paint Sarah Scott as sexually aggressive.
That's right. They submitted evidence that was a photograph of Ms. Scott breastfeeding, and
from her Instagram.
Right, she was showing her Instagram feed, and they allege, well, this showed that she was, sexually out there, and so she's written that off as, a ridiculous attempt to blame the victim.
So the committee hears all of the evidence, the testimony, gets the affidavit. What did they decide for Mr. Pardue?
So they found that he was guilty of serious misconduct, that he'd violated the code of conduct for sexual harassment that the union has, and they fined him $6,000. And if he takes an online workplace sexual harassment course in the next 90 days, it will be halved to $3,000.
So it's not a suspension in there, and even though one of the reasons Sarah wanted to come forward was so that other women would know, this was not made public. She is allowed to speak, but they didn't send anything out or warn any other actresses who might be working with them.
That's right. This procedure is confidential, the union's procedure. But for Ms. Scott, actually talking to my colleague Amy and releasing the records that she has, it wouldn't have become public. And so that really raises an interesting issue as to how to deal with these allegations, these very serious allegations at the time when Hollywood is supposed to be cleaning up its act.
It's a really interesting story, and by the way, it's gotten a little bit political because there's a presidential election coming up at Screen Actors Guild, and both the incumbent president of the union and the challenger are now making it an issue, correct?
That's right. They're talking about what more needs to be done, and each of them are saying that more needs to be done than is being done right now.
Well, I think what Sarah Scott said is she wanted to make sure other people knew so that it didn't happen again. So I think notification might be on their list of things to do. Thanks a lot, Jack.